Hello and welcome to Daisy's 60-minute craft make for December. And welcome. I hope you are managing to find 60 minutes to sit and do a little bit of mindful crafting on this run up to Christmas. And embroidery is a lovely thing to do, which can just take you away from all the responsibilities that you have ahead of you. So tonight we are going to be embroidering this lovely little Christmas tree, which makes a great little gift tag, or you can turn it into whatever you want, an embellishment on a napkin or whatever you're thinking. But I've done it as a little last minute tag, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So everything you need I've got out in front of me. So hopefully you've got all your things ready too. I have got some fabric, so just a linen type fabric or a calico type fabric is great. A cotton, perhaps a little bit too thin because you'll see the stitches. But if you see, when you put your hand under it, you don't really want to be able to see through. You don't want to see the stitches as you've moved them through. So it's a little bit thicker than your average cotton. It's a linen or a calico, which will be good. But don't worry if you've got something a little thinner, perhaps double it up. Okay, so we've got our fabric. We're going to need some embroidery floss. So I've got the colours that you would need for a Christmas tree. So some red for the little berries on it that I've added, and the trunk and the branches and the pot, and then the green for the little leaves or needles, depending on how you look at it. It could be sort of a Christmas plant or a Christmas tree. I've got myself a needle. So my needle is quite big. It's got a nice size eye on it so that I can see to stitch with it. And I didn't want to go too small because you're not going to be able to see what I'm doing on the camera. I always say to people, use an embroidery needle, but use an embroidery needle that you can manage with in terms of your eyesight and your ability to thread that needle. Don't make life too difficult for yourself. So we've got a needle. I've got an embroidery hoop to put my work over, but more so that I can keep holding it up and down to you in the camera. And because this is so little, you don't need to use an embroidery hoop if you haven't got one. You can just hold it and work from it. So whatever works best for you. I've got a ruler just so that I can give you the measurements of the different sizes of the tree. I've got some card for backing the tree on when we're finished. I've got a little bit of scrap paper because we can do a little bit of doodling before we start, just so that you can work out what kind of image you're going to make with your embroidery, and a pencil and some scissors. I've also got out my fabric pen. If you'd rather use a fabric pen that is heat erasable or disappears when you iron it, or however you do it, then you can use that. But I will just use a pencil because most of what you draw will be covered, so you don't need anything fancy for this. You'll also see I've got my little punch here that rounds the corners. That again is not essential either, but I'm getting a little bit addicted to using it and trying to use it whenever I can. And I've got some glue just for sticking it down on the card when we're finished. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, if you have got a little bit of scrap paper, just do yourself a little doodle of the shape that you're going to draw on the fabric. That will just give you the confidence when you draw it on the fabric that you know what you're doing. So my little Christmas tree, I'm going to call in, is 5 centimetres, just over tall from the base of his pot to the top. And he goes as wide as 4 centimetres on his lower branch. So on your little piece of paper, just give yourself a little doodle. Do yourself a little pot so you know how you're going to draw that. It doesn't have to be the same as mine at all. You might want to tilt the branches so they go up or hang down, however you want them. I've done them straight across, and I've done them by eye, getting slightly smaller as you get to the top, like so. And that basically gives you the template that you're going to stitch along. Don't worry about drawing the little needles or the little leaves on the fabric, because they're just going to appear randomly where we want them to go. But just do those little lines across. So that's what you're going to aim for. Something like that drawn on your fabric. Now, just be careful, because if you're going to do it with an embroidery hoop, you want to make sure that you've not done it on the edge and it doesn't fit in the embroidery hoop. So I'm just going to pop that there while I mark where my tree is going to be. And you also want to make sure that you follow the trunk of the tree along the grain of the fabric. Okay, so make sure you've got your grain of your fabric and draw along the trunk of the tree. So I can move that now because I know I've got that in the right place. And then I'm going to go across and draw my little pot. And if you really want to, you can get your ruler and you can pop it in the middle like that. So you know, again, following the grain across this time. So you've got 4 centimeters and then move it up. Make it a bit smaller. So I've gone 1/2 centimeter smaller each time. Like that. And then another little one at the top. There we go. So it can be a little freestyled Christmas tree now on your fabric. And I know that I can fit my embroidery hoop over it. So if I just hold it up, you can see I've drawn that with pencil. And then I'm just going to pop the hoop underneath, pop that on the top, make sure it's loose enough, and pop that over to hold it in place. And then that just gives you something to hold when you're working on it if you have got a little hoop. If you haven't, don't worry, just work on it as it is. Okay, let's just get the ruler out of the way and my little sketch that's not in the way. So I'm going to start by doing the trunk of the tree and the branches. And we're going to do that using a stem stitch. So don't worry, I will explain what a stem stitch is. You don't want too much embroidery floss, just enough so you don't get tangled. So about the length of your arm. Okay, so about that much there. Cut that off. And we're going to reduce that amount because we don't want to use it in its entire thickness. We're going to split it. So most embroidery flosses are 6 threaded. So you want to find the middle and separate the threads so that you've got 3 between one thumb and finger and 3 on the other side. All right, well, you find eventually you get there. There we go. And then pop your finger in the middle, hold it out to the side, and then pop your thumb in and slide it along whilst holding it between your fingers. It will just stop it getting tangled. There we go, like that. And then go the other way and unwind it. Go too fast, it gets tangled. Like so. So then you'll have 3 threads on either side. Except mine's got a bit of little tangle at the end, so I'm just not gonna fight it. We'll just cut that bit off. There we go. So with your 3 threads, you're going to thread your needle. Now I did bring a needle threader just in case. So if you've got one of these, they're really great for threading needles, especially at this time of the evening. And they've got a little soft wire piece that you put through the needle. Now let me just show you in case you've not used one before. So you pop it through the needle and then you put your thread through the wire bit, which is a lot bigger than the eye of a needle. And then you pull the needle threader back through the needle and it threads it for you. Okay, so we're not going to do the plant pot. We'll do that later. And there's 2 ways with embroidery. You can put little knots at in the bottom if you want to, but quite often you don't want to have a bumpy underside to your work. So as long as you bring the needle up and don't bring it all the way, just keep hold of it. Then you can keep stitching and not pull it all the way out, and it will be okay. All right, because we're not sewing something together that's going to come undone, so you'll be fine. So a stem stitch, you move away from where you brought it up a little bit like that. Okay, so about 5 millimeters, I suppose, half a centimeter about. And before you bring that loop all the way down, you bring your needle back up halfway between those two stitches. So I'm going to bring that right up to the camera so that you can see the needle is up in between those two stitches. And I pull that now, and then I carry on, and that makes the start of my stem stitch. So this time I go back down about half a centimeter, but I don't take it all the way down because I'm going to bring the needle back up halfway in the gap. And if you notice, every time I keep the thread on this side of the needle to keep that consistency and keep that consistent twist. So go back now about half a centimetre, keep the loop on this side, bring the needle back up halfway, and off we go. And you do that the whole way up the centre. Okay, so back in. But remember, don't pull it all the way, and then bring the needle up halfway, and then carry on. So I'm going to take it down a little bit from the camera while you carry on doing yours. I'll carry on doing mine. I did see a little clip on social media of somebody just writing the names of people on their presents. I thought, oh, what a shame, we're making this lovely gift tag. And perhaps gift tags aren't always used anymore. So hopefully you are going to use this gift tag for somebody, or if not, pop it somewhere really nice as a decoration hanging up. So there we go, keep going with that stem stitch right the way to the top of the tree. So it's like a back stitch, but you take it sort of mid between. Is it like a back stitch or is it like part of a running stitch? I don't know, you'll have to tell me. Hopefully it's not new to you. Hopefully this is a stitch you've done before, a stem stitch. It's a pretty twisty stitch. I really like it. Okay, so once you get to the top, like so, all right, turn it up the right way for you. You're going to go across. So I'm going to bring my needle up on the edge of the branch, and then I'm going to do slightly smaller stitches across, just so that I can fit a few stem stitches here. So exactly the same thing, but I've just made them a little bit smaller. And then get to the middle. Go across. Okay, now when you get to this end here, what you don't want to do is just have lots of big bits of embroidery floss crisscrossed across the back. So I'm going to just take my needle back to the center in the back, tucked underneath, and I'm going to just tuck it under these stitches so that it's not a loose piece of thread hanging down. And then this time I'm going to come up in the middle and go out to the side. And then again. And then again. Oh. And then I'm going to thread it back across. So I get back to the middle. Just keeps the back of it a little bit tidy. And then from the middle out to the side. And this time I'm going to finish it off. And I'm going to do the whole of the next branch in one go. Now I've done these little fiddly ones. I'll show you what I mean. It's sort of always looking for the most economical way of using your thread. That's how I describe it. So there we go. So I've done those little crosses there, and I'm just going to tuck my thread into the back of those stitches and then cut it off. I'm going to cut that little loose bit of thread out of the way. Try and keep it tidy as we go. And then this time I'm going to go right the way across on this branch, and I'll do the same on this one. It just makes it much easier to do. So again, don't pull it all the way through because you don't want to use the end. And then work your way across. So we're doing a stem stitch, and then we're going to do some little mini daisy stitches, which is part of a chain stitch that makes the little leaves or needles on the tree. And then we're going to do a satin stitch for the pot at the bottom. So when you're embroidering, sometimes, like now, your thread gets a little bit twisted. So I just sort of hold it, let it unwind a little bit so it doesn't end up getting knotted before you carry on. Okay, happy with that. So again, I'm just going to tuck the end back into the middle so I can cut that off. And then I've got the last branch to do. So I'm going to go right the way across here. And you can see I've done all of that with one arm's length of thread. And that was half of the thread. So you can see you just need a tiny amount of floss for embroidering. You can make some really beautiful things. It's been a while since we did embroidery in the members club. You might remember we did a little bookmark with some embroidery stitches, if you remember that. But that was on felt, not like this on a piece of fabric. I love that you start with a blank piece of fabric. So it's like a blank canvas. And then by the end of it, you've got something really pretty on it. Oh, I could feel that sneeze coming, excuse me. I was trying to stop it. Okay. So our branches are nearly all done. So once we've done the branches, we're going to do the pot with our satin stitch, because then that finishes all the brown thread that we're using. Like so. Finish that off behind. And then just cut that off. So that's too small to use now, so I'll just pop that to one side. I'm going to get the other half of the thread that we separated and thread it. I might be needing that needle thread in a minute. There we go. Okay, so there is the tree. And now we're going to do the pot. You can see here the pot. So we're going to do a satin stitch. Now a satin stitch is just a running stitch that goes around and around and around and around. So we come up and go down, come up and go down, come up and go down, and just keep going until we get to the bottom of the pot. So pop your needle up at the widest point at the top of the pot. Keep hold of that thread again at the back, because you don't want it to disappear, and then go across, and then go as close as you can underneath it, because you don't want to see any of the fabric. So it's as close as you can get it, as your eyes will let you, following the line of that pencil mark or the fabric pen that you use to mark out where the pot is. Now I'm using brown for my pot, but you might have changed it up, put a different colour pot on. That's fine. But you can see how the pot starts to take shape. If you don't quite go on your pencil marks, don't worry, they do rub off. I did have a little practice and see if I could rub them away when it didn't quite. I took a different angle, and they do. And once you've got to the bottom of your pot, then you could just finish off with the brown. There we go. I'm going to leave mine like that and just finish that off. And you can, because we went round and round, the back looks pretty much the same as the front. So I'm just going to take it off my frame because I can't get my needle under the edge of it. And then I can just pop the needle under there to finish that off. And cut that away. I'd like to tuck that under there so it's out of the way. If I can do it with my pencil. There we go. I'm just tucking the loose ends away so it's not in the way. Okay, so there's my tree. Next job then is to add on some of the green. So the green we're going to use just with 2 strands. Okay, so you've got 2 different coloured greens. So I've got a brighter green here, and I'm going to split it so that I have 2 of them. Okay. Oh, I'm getting it all tangled with my other ones. So I'd already split this, which is why I didn't go to the middle. But if you're splitting something for the first time, it's always best to find the middle. Pop your thumbs in it and then pull your thumbs out like I showed you earlier. Okay, so I'm going to pop this back in the frame. Like so. And then I am going to pop a little knot in the end of this just to make life a little bit easier. So if you hold your needle between your thumb and finger, and then you put the end between your thumb and finger, the end of the thread, then wrap it round 2 or 3 times, put the wrapping that you've done between your thumb and finger and slide it to the bottom of the thread. And then that gives you a little knot. It just helps when you're doing these little stitches. So it's like a chain stitch if you've ever done one of those. When you bring your needle up where you want it to be, and then you put your needle back down almost where it came up, and then take your needle up the length you want that little leaf to be. So I've come up, and then I go back down, and then I take my needle out. Then I wrap the embroidery floss under my needle, bring the needle all the way through, like so. And then to anchor that into position, pop your needle down just beyond where the loop is, and that will hold it in position. So then you go back up where you want the next one to be. And my advice is to be as random as you can be with this, and then go back down near where you came up, put the needle down and up, like so. Wrap the embroidery floss around your needle, and then pull through to make the loop, and then use your needle to anchor that into position by just popping it down just at the end of that little loop that you've made. And you keep going. So you want to scatter these all along the branches, and then we're going to put a different colour in between. So put them all facing different ways. And we're away. So if you're watching this back and you're thinking about having a go, then you can make your tree as big or as small as you want to. Work with what's easiest for you. If you go bigger, you won't need to use as thinner pieces of thread, so you don't need to split them down so much because you'll want to see them more. If you go smaller, you might want to use less thread. So we're going to pop these little green leaves or pine needles on, and then we're going to do some French knots for the little red bits to accentuate the branches, make them stand out with a bit of Christmas cheer with a bit of red. It can be little baubles or little berries, whatever you think. Like so. I always try and do these things randomly, and then it never really appears random. I think you're better at being random than I am. I've already started doing them so that they're opposite one another, and it wasn't my intention. I wanted it to be more random. Just let your needle take you where it wants you to go, I reckon. I've unthreaded it somehow, got it caught around everything. Okay. Right, we're off again. Slows you down if you get everything caught. Always in the right rhythm then as well. Right, off we go again. So when I get to the end of the branch, I'll have a look if I can get the thread up to the next branch in a nice way, and if I can't, I'll just tie it off and start again. But just be mindful, if you can see through your fabric, that you don't want to see the green thread jumping between the stitches on the back. I love how it's like colouring in, because it starts to really build as you add more and more to it, embroidery. And I like the freedom of embroidery that you don't have with, I think I'll be all right. I'm going to go straight up. That you don't have with cross stitch. And something like tapestry, you've got no freedom. You've got to just follow exactly with things like this. But with embroidery, you're free to go wherever you think you ought to. And there doesn't need to be any rules. You can make it look however you want it to look. Okay. So we're working our way across. Again, you'll see how far this one piece of embroidery floss actually takes you. So I'm just going to use 2 colours of green. But if you've only got 1 colour, it doesn't matter. You can just use 1 colour. If you've got 3 and you wanted to make it really fancy, you can do 3. Like I said, no rules. Just enjoy creating your tree. So if you were doing this, say on the corner of a napkin or something, you'd want to be much more careful about what the back was looking like, because people will flick the napkin over and you're going to see it, even if you put a little bit of iron on backing. But because I'm doing this for a gift tag that we're going to glue to a piece of card, you don't need to worry too much that the back is as tidy as the front. I just want to mention that in case you're going to use it for something different and you make something else. You just need to be a little bit more careful with how the back looks. Okay, so I'm going to tie that off because I don't want to take it right the way up from there. Let's check if that was going through. And because I've only got such a tiny amount left, I'm going to get my other piece to make it easier to do those top bits. And again, do that little knot in the end. I'll do it right-handed this time. So needle and thumb and finger holding that. Put the end of the thread between your thumb and finger, like so. And then with your left hand, wrap it round 3 times and then put that twist between your thumb and finger in your right hand, and then slide it to the bottom of the piece of thread, and you'll have a little knot. And that was it right-handed. Right, let's carry on. 2 more branches to go with this colour. Oh, knocked it out. It's easier when it gets shorter. I've got a long piece now. It makes it harder. So nearly there with this colour. And then I'm going to use a slightly darker green just to dot some more little green stitches around. Oh, to add a bit more interest. Oh, I keep getting it stuck on my finger. There we go. And then there. The last top branch to do. A little knot there. Let's check that. Doesn't cause problems. And then I'm just going to slide the thread through the back to get me to the top. And then do my last light green ones. So you can vary the sizes of these stitches as well, because that will vary the size of the leaves or the needles on the tree. Do some from the top branch. Here we've got top of the tree's got a little leaf or a berry on it here. And then once you finish with this thread, just finish it off on the back. So still, I've only used 1 piece of embroidery floss because I've split it down into 2 threads, and you would still have thread left. Okay, last stitch. Oh, a dry piece of skin on my finger. It's causing havoc with my thread. Luckily I was on my last stitch. Nearly there. There we go. That was lucky. Just going to finish that off. Put that away. Okay, so over to my dark green ones now. And again, still just using 2 threads. So find the middle, part them out, finger in the middle, unravel and unravel. And then off we go again. This time from the bottom. Do my little knot. And you might find you just need a few of these in place, not quite as many as the light ones that we did earlier. Try not to catch my finger on the thread. Okay. You work your way across, adding your stitches. I get excited when I get to this bit because I just want to put the little berries on the red bits because they're the decoration at the end of it. But you can see how adding another colour just gives it a little pop. Ooh. I've definitely not won any prizes for the tidiest back of this, but it's function over form for this, I think. So again, one piece seems to do the bottom 2 branches, and then another piece for those final top 2 branches. But again, look how quickly it grows. It makes you appreciate, doesn't it, how long it takes if somebody's made you something, you know, quite often a bit bigger than this. This is an hour. How many hours you need to invest in something to make it really beautiful, which is lovely when it's given to someone that really appreciates the time you've put in. I can just manage to get a couple out of this thread at the top. This is definitely one for my reading glasses. I don't know if anyone else is sat there with their reading glasses on or a magnifier, but it's definitely one of those types of crafts that to make sure you can see what you're doing. This is definitely my last stitch with this thread. It's getting very small. Right. And tidy that off. Okay. I just need to do a few little ones just at the top. I'm going to cut my thread because I know I don't need it that long and it just gets in the way. Okay. Then let's add some dark green to the ends of these branches. Okay, so when we do the little berries, the little red bits, if you use one thread, you'll have tiny berries. If you use 2 threads of your embroidery floss, you'll have slightly bigger, and 3, you'll have slightly, and so on. So you just think about how big you want them to be. I'm going to do mine 2, but again, you could do a combination. You could do some that are 1, some that use 2 threads. It's up to you. Mine will be 2, so you'll see, and they were 2 on that, so you can see what they make when you do that. And of course, when you do a French knot, the more you wrap the embroidery floss around the needle, the bigger the knot will be anyway. So you can always change the size with that. Okay, so I think I'm happy with that. Just pop one in there. And that's my tree created. So onto my little French knots. Pop that out the back. So we're going to do the French knots in red. And when I did that one here, I had 2 threads left of my floss, so I'm going to use that. So at least while you're splitting your thread, you can watch me do a little demo of a French knot. So wherever you want it, you're going to bring up your needle. Then you're going to hold your needle next to where the floss is coming out of the fabric. Wrap the thread around it, so 3 or 4 times, and then keeping the tension on that thread, put your needle back into the fabric near to where you brought it up and slide it into a little French knot. And then when you want another one, you bring the needle up into a gap where you want another one, and then show you again. Wrap the thread around the needle 3 or 4 times before you put your needle back where you brought it up and slide it through. And then work your way across, adding your little red berries. I think I mainly did wrapping it 3 times. Sometimes I did 4, just to make a bit of a statement with some of them. You can group them together, or you can spread them out. Oh, I missed that then. Yeah, so be careful not to go exactly back where you brought your needle up, because if the knot's not big enough, it will just pop straight back through. Pop it up, wrap it round. Once you get the hang of French knots, or you just be putting them everywhere for little embellishments, they're great. I love them. Okay, so you go across like that, and you can see that instantly. Hold it up, brings it to life. Okay, I'm going to just tie that off because I don't want the red to be trailed across. And then do another little knot in the bottom. Like so. And then start on the next branch. I'm going to actually start at the top because I've only got a little tiny bit of this thread left, and it will finish these top branches for me. 2, 3. I've put that many leaves on the top. I've not left much space for my little red berries. Okay. Try and get one last one, and then I need more thread. 2, 3, just. Right, so I need to split a piece of red. Don't need it too long. And I only want 2 threads because there's 6 in it, so that leaves you 4 on one side, 2 on the other. Okay, and then off you go again. Little knot in the end. I just need a couple here, and then some along that middle branch. And then I'm going to show you how to tidy it up and put it on your little piece of card. I think I've managed to be more random with my little red bits. There we go. I think that's plenty. Right, so just tidy that off at the back. Needle out of the way. Take it off that. And there it is. Okay, so now I want to draw around a square so that I can cut it and fray the edges. So it's handy actually having it on your cutting mat because you can get a nice straight line from one side to the other. So it's best to not go too small to start with. Let's just put that in line there, and then go from there to there, and then I'm going to go that way to make a nice straight line. I've done it way too big, but I always like go cautious first. So once you've drawn your rectangle around it, cut it out without the pencil lines because you don't want the pencil lines. Are you shouting? How big is it? Right, let me just tell you, it was a real guesstimate, but it's 8 centimeters by about 8.5 centimeters, but it's going to end up smaller. This is just to get us started. Okay, let's get that out of the way. So then you want to pull off and fray the edges, and this is where you're able to then straighten it up because you want those, can you see, you want that edge to look the same. So you go all the way around the edge. I'm actually going to cut that because I want it nearer than that. Cut that. I like to do this by eye. There we go, that's better. Do the same along the bottom. And then you can tidy up the bottom. And I think I need to just take a little bit off the edge. And then do the same along the edge. it's about like that. I think I've done this tree a little bit bigger. Let's just take a bit more off the top. It's better. A bit more off the side. A bit more off the side. It's better. Just trim that top a little bit. Okay, right, I'm going to move those cuttings out of the way so I don't get them stuck on everything. And there it is. So then I bring in my piece of card. Now this cardboard is just the remnants of a Christmas card. So just one that you would make yourself. So I'm just going to lay that on my cutting board. I'm going to cut it to a nice square size, which I will do with my scissors. And then I'll be able to show you why I'm so hooked on my little cutting device. So you can do this with a slice if you've got one. You can do it with a craft knife and a ruler, or you can just do it like I have with scissors. So let's find that out of the way. So that's going to go on there, like so. But to make it look a bit fancy, I'm just going to round off the corners with my little cutting machine. So you basically put the cutting corner that's sharp into there, and then you do that and it rounds it. And I absolutely love this. And I could recommend everybody has one of these in their craft kit because I think it just finishes everything off beautifully. And then you need a hole through the top for your ribbon. So just put that and work out where the center is. So you know where you want that hole. Feed it into your hole punch. Put in that hole in the middle, like so. And then that's where you can put your ribbon. So I can use this ribbon, just go through there, like so. And then you want to stick that on there. So I'm going to use my high tack glue, squirt some in. You don't need very much. And then I'm just going to put some glue on here because it's nice and high tack. It will hold it all in position and it dries clear, like so. And then pop that on there, exactly where you want it. Firm it down so it sticks in all areas. And that is your wonderful little gift tag to complete your Christmas wrapping, just like that. And if you want to get rid of those little marks, just grab yourself a rubber and just rub those little marks away. There we go. And then you can't see those at all. And that's finished it off. So I hope you've enjoyed crafting with me in 2024. I can't believe this is our last craft session for 2024, and we will craft again together in 2025. I'm looking forward to sharing with you what that craft will be in the new year. So it just leaves me to tell you to all have a fabulous Christmas, and I can't wait to start crafting with you again in 2025. Enjoy your Christmas celebrations, and I will be crafting with you soon. Take care and good night.